Allow me to open this video with an example I want to give to center this one-sided discussion. So, there is this "Am I the asshole?" story on Reddit. It does not matter if the story is true or not, it is the response that is relevant. A story by zesty_clothes_hat_7274. It says, "Am I the asshole for telling my sister that it is her fault that she missed out on her grandfather's funeral? My 26M grandfather recently passed away from suffering from Alzheimer's for years. While it was sad, I knew he would be happier wherever he was going. During the planning of his funeral, my sister and I discussed who would attend, and she mentioned bringing her girlfriend. I've always been openly supportive of my sister, 22F, and her relationship, but our family isn't. They haven't met her girlfriend and aren't wanting to, so I didn't think it was a good idea. When I told my sister that bringing her girlfriend to the funeral would cause drama, she got upset. She said she does not feel safe without her girlfriend there. I offered to stay with her during the entire service if she felt uncomfortable around family members, but she insisted on bringing her girlfriend. She said that they are engaged, so her girlfriend is basically family whether others like it or not. I told her it seems like she just wanted drama and that if she felt she had to bring her girlfriend, she might as well not go because the funeral wasn't about her and her girlfriend, but about our grandfather. My sister got very emotional, which made me feel bad, but I didn't think a funeral was the place to introduce her girlfriend to the family. My sister left and ended up not attending the funeral. It's been almost a week since the funeral, and I called my sister to check on her since we haven't spoken much since our disagreement. She wanted to know about our grandfather's service, so I recapped everything. Then she started getting upset and saying she wished she could have been there. This made me angry because she could have been there, so I explained she could not attend because she wanted to bring someone to intentionally cause drama. This turned into another argument, and her girlfriend ended up taking the phone and hanging up on me, throwing a jab about me being a bad brother. I feel like I could have handled the situation better, but I tried to offer countless solutions to my sister. Am I the asshole? To add more context to his story from his comments responding to people, he says, "A funeral isn't a place for drama." Next comment, "I don't think I am complicit, ... However, I believe this is such an emotional time. It is hard to ask ... to remain silent when someone they view as strangers show up to a funeral ... She knows how our family gets. I was trying to protect her from this. Only because I'm the only one who knows my sister wanted to bring her girlfriend. If our mother, father or grandfather knew, it would have been a lot worse ... She had a ring and her girlfriend posted stuff about it online. The only thing that is strange to me is why her girlfriend never mentioned proposing to my sister to me, or any of my sister's side of the family that she gets along with, before posting it online. My grandfather had Alzheimer's. He didn't say much, but he wasn't a hateful guy. He loved my sister. I'm not homophobic. Maybe I shouldn't have told her that her girlfriend, fiance, whatever, couldn't come to the funeral, but it's not about them. My sister should not be making it about her and her issues with her parents. If she had brought her girlfriend, someone would have asked them to leave, arguing with them, or made petty comments. This would lead to my sister crying and acting irrational ... I told her that I would stay with her the entire service instead of her girlfriend. My sister and I talk about everything. She wanted her girlfriend to go for support because she doesn't feel safe around my family. I don't believe she had any intention of introducing her girlfriend to our family because, as F as it is, they don't even speak to her when they see her ... I just wanted to protect her and the peace of our family ... I don't believe her partner would have felt uncomfortable around our family because she knows exactly how they are ... I found out that's exactly why she wanted to go with my sister ... I'm glad Reddit labeled this douchebag an asshole. Okay, it is the norm that invitations are not required to attend a funeral. There's a big difference between the mourning period and the funeral event. The day of the funeral is the day to give the dead their last rites, and this is the day families or guardians of the dead are expected to open their doors and allow people who love the dead person to come and say their last goodbyes. If that is not the case, then state funerals wouldn't have been a thing. Objectively, the sister had the right to bring along her fiancé, friend, lover, whoever to support her as she mourns the loss of a person she supposedly loved. Objectively, the conversation ends here. But let us list why someone should not or allowed to attend a funeral. Being a total stranger with no evident connection to the deceased. But let's be clear, you do not freak out or make a scene. You quietly ask them how they know the dead, and if they do not give a compelling answer, you quietly ask them to leave, and it is okay to call the police and force them out. Though in my culture, we would not usually do that, I think mostly because of the fact that random attendees are expected to first say their goodbye to the body first before they are allowed to share food and meat with the rest of the family. Okay, next. So, you are legally barred from attending the funeral. Maybe the dead have a restraining order against you. You have a criminal charge relating to the dead person, or you are under suspicion for having caused the demise of the dead person. Next, you have a contagious disease like COVID. Next, you are drunk or are displaying disruptive behavior like blatant displays of narcissism in the way you talk, walk, dress, and express. Let me emphasize, the OP's sister did not display any such traits as corroborated by the OP himself. The sister's only alleged sin is her desire to bring her own support system to the funeral and not a parade, okay? But then again, to the OP's family, the sister's sexuality is already the same thing. The next reason, there are cultural or religious beliefs and protocols, but that also hinges on the will of the dead, which is one of my personal gripes. Honestly, when I die, and if it is before my parents, I would be livid if I end up as a ghost to bear witness to them burying me instead of cremating me. I've expressed my desire to be cremated and my parents and family going against my wishes. I would hope I have friends that would literally file a lawsuit against my parents and make a whole ruckus of it and ensure that I get cremated instead of buried, and preferably before I completely decompose. I find the thought and idea of my body decomposing absolutely disgusting. And I definitely do not wish to be embalmed either. Taking myself back out of this story, it is a very common thing in the trans community for the family, quote unquote, to claim the dead and bury them in the avatar trans people do not wish to see themselves in. It is sad. The issue I want to point out here are the people who would scream, "Do not rock the boat." In other words, pointing out the liberal and the insufferable thing they do on a fundamental level that makes them, well, a liberal, quote unquote. As an example, people who would say things like, "A funeral is never a time to introduce your partner to your family. No matter if you're gay or straight, his sister really should have just gone by herself. Her girlfriend never knew their grandfather, so why was she going to go in the first place? And if the family is as homophobic as OP says, then yeah, it just would have been a bunch of drama, which you don't want at a funeral. While yes, the family themselves would have started it, there's no way OP's sister would have known that bringing her girlfriend to a funeral where her homophobic family would have resulted in that." Another comment says, "A funeral is an emotional charge event. It's not the place to bring in a new variable that could make the bomb explode. In a place where tens of people are against you and 2 or 3 people stand on your side, why would you want to put yourself in that situation? An engagement party sometimes after or even a family reunion would be a better place to introduce their partner, but not at a time and place where everyone's emotions are already on 10 and they need an outlet." Next comment says, "A funeral is not the place to start drama and try to make a stand about LGBT acceptance. If the sister wanted her girlfriend to be more accepted into the family, she would have tried beforehand or waited after the funeral. As an LGBT person myself, this is 100% on the sister. Her girlfriend being there was more important than saying goodbye, then that's on her. She needs to get over it and live with that decision. But she doesn't get to have a pity party as if she was being iced out. I get it, it's awful to have a family that won't accept you for who you are. But a funeral is not a time nor place to bring the issue out into the open. Next comment. It is not a party or an event. It's about honoring the dead and consoling the bereaved. At a funeral, emotions are high and depression is deep. Why the frick would you choose a funeral to make the stand? Next comment. A funeral is not the place to introduce others to a significant other, no matter where you land on the sexuality spectrum. If OP's sister wanted her fiancé's support at the service, then she could have brought the fiancé in a friend role and waited to spill the beans about their true relationship at a more appropriate event in the future. Next comment. I'm gay, and even I think it's ridiculous. I had issues with family as well as my husband. Me getting married was a big thing with my family, and so I made the decision to have my husband stay home for my mother's funeral. He was supportive and just helped me emotionally through it as best as he could. Could I have said F you to my family and brought him anyway as much as I wanted him there? Sure, but it would have had destroyed the last bit of relationship I had with them, and both he and I knew that, and he respected what I wanted. So he stayed home. There's a time and place to pick your battle. In this midst of those grieving is the last place to do that. See a pattern here? It being the consistent and systematic belief and practice of liberals in incrementalism. People's belief and ideologies in politics are wide-ranging. They come in a spectrum of the political compass, and most of the time, individuals are rather scatterbrained when it comes to their political leaning. But everyone has a core fundamental political leaning, and most times, it depends and builds on their emotional empathetic range. Liberals believe in particular subject and matter different from time to time and from era to era, according to where the Overton window pushes, as do all others. But you can always pick up on who and what makes a liberal, no matter what the time period. A pivotal characteristic of a liberal is most obvious, their empathy. And do not mistake this, but empathy plays a big role on where people fall in the political spectrum. Not the main role, but it is a prominent one. Liberals come in two types, the unpowered and the empowered liberal. And one big major characteristic, liberals will never outright challenge the status quo. As an example, liberals will not stand a slave being beaten and whipped. If they have the power, they would stop it immediately. If they don't, they'll cry about it. Liberals will stand and advocate for better treatment of slaves by their masters. They will demand better living conditions, food, and even clothing. But it will never cross their mind to outright demand the freeing of the slaves. Liberals will genuinely believe in their hearts that all men and women are made equal. Every person deserves to be free. Every human deserves to be clothed, fed, and sheltered. They will believe in equality, equity, and inclusion. But these are terms of negotiations, not fundamental requirements. So, in their social progression, they will advocate for the abolition of slavery, but say, I'm sorry, former slave, but we have negotiated that you will have to suffer through a bit of segregation just so that the fascists can have a little bit of an adjustment period. And say other things like, surely Hitler will not start World War II after we give him the Sudetenlands. I'm sure we will get a chance to come back to the negotiation table so we can discuss him and his party treating the Jews a little bit less badly. Vichy France, I mean, a Jew here, a Jew there. As long as it saves most of France, I'm sure we can negotiate certain freedoms. And now with the liberals' habit of saying, sure, everyone deserves a home, a roof over their head, but first, how about we move them for now just so that their side does not offend better off people? And please leave a donation for the homeless shelter. And the worst still, every human must have healthcare. It should be right. We know that, we see that, and we hear that. But how about first we start with a multi-payer system? We will do a little bit of this for the old people. We will do a little bit of this for the young people. We will do a little bit of this for the children, for their mothers. We will then negotiate some with the healthcare profiteers. So that bit by bit, the healthcare serves all. It's not like we are expecting for the healthcare profiteers to not just sit back and do their darn best to chip away all we have achieved so far, bit by bit, until everything we have meticulously built and negotiated gets so bloated and excruciating to deal with that eventually we get to a point where people would just decide to blow it all up to kingdom come. No, that will never happen. Profiteers will never negotiate in bad faith. No! The point I want to make about the story is that political labels like liberalism, progressivism, conservatism, fascism, and anarchism are not just political structures, practice, or theory. They are baked into who we are and how we see and view the world. But they are not inherent, of course, as they are part and parcel to an individual survival strategy, and hence they can evolve, change, or adapt. As a thought or a practical experiment, you can read this story to someone and you can gauge their response depending on whose point of view they would identify from. Quote, "These degenerates should not be allowed anywhere," unquote, is basically what a fascist would say, and if they see it from the brother's perspective, they would probably tell the sister to keep the relationship hidden and not make it all about her. A genuine conservative would probably try to avoid the subject at all costs. A progressive would probably tell you to screw the family, and if they say anything about it, we fight. An anarchist, I genuinely do not know what they would say or do. And the liberals' response would generally fall on, "I feel you, I hear you, but it would be best to not bring your partner as support because that will rock the boat. Perhaps another unspecified time that I would probably have concern with as well. I'm sorry, but these kind of things we need to talk about with behind the scene because again, I'm sure they would eventually come to an understanding." Reading people and surmising where they land on the political spectrum is not hard when you can view people's action and interaction from a certain or various perspective. People who have a lot of empathy and people who do not tend to behave and react very differently when it comes to conditions that are not related to them in relation to the level of narcissism they may have. What I want to hit a nail in the head with is liberals really need to stop placating the people on the right, especially fascists. Conservatives are on the right, those are fine, and from what I can tell by the numbers, people on the far left far outright people who are conservative, at least the genuine conservative, and other people who identify themselves as conservative and say things like the good old days. Those are straight up fascists no matter how light they may be in their fascism. Because the reality is, no matter how crazy the world seems to be, how precarious and unsettling the world may feel, and volatile it may seem, we as a human species, we are living in the best of times. I mean, the future is bleak, but as of right now, there has not been a better time to be alive. Think about it. 20 years ago, the internet did not exist as it does today. 50 years ago, it was the Cold War. 100 years ago, there were 2 world wars. 200 years ago, people died of dysentery. Going back to what I was talking about, in simple terms, genuine conservatives tend to be people who do not like change. They are people who are relatively content in the world as is. They're not much different from liberals other than dealing with the devil they know than the ones they do not. To them, the world is broken and they would much prefer to not break it any further. These people can be negotiated with. They can be a pain in the bum, but the possibility is there. The problem with them, however, is their tendency to support authoritarian figures when clean plans and ideas are not presented to them, when you try and change things here and there, and liberals tend to always fail progressive in this regard. Conservatives tend to not like directly talking or negotiating with progressives, and leftists. Progressives tend to get easily annoyed and they end up raising hell because they can't comprehend how conservatives cannot see what they see. This is where liberals come in to help craft or draft whatever message and curate it however they think would get the message across. And because of the large number power, they always end up vetoing a lot of negotiating terms and articles. And by the end of it all, conservatives end up being confused, concerned, and very agitated. This is how liberals end up pushing a lot of people into fascism. Again, Fascism is not just a political belief, but a fundamental human character flaw. Anyone who ends up being a fascist, they do not need the backing of an organization or a state to be considered a fascist. And the reality is, we know a fascist or two in our lives. A fascist can be your mother, father, sister, brother, uncle, aunt, cousin, or friend. Fascists tend to display a certain characteristic. They have a strong desire to control, to ensure they feel secure in an environment. They will do just about anything to achieve it. And with that, they have a strong reaction to any kind of dissent, using whatever tools they have to maintain their power and authority, may that be financial or hierarchical position or straight up guilt tripping. Narcissism is always on point with fascists. And if the narcissist is unlucky enough to not have much value in terms of the ability to show their worth, and may that be a pretty face, a high paying job, a creative mind, and so on, they would just adopt someone else's value as their own. As an example, their cousin is hot and fit and successful. As much as they might resent that cousin, they will probably see that and say, "We came from the same gene pool, so we are exactly the same." They will then use this justification to look down on others as long as it gives them an outlet to make themselves feel superior to others. Hot people can be fascist too, usually. For them, they do not need external validation to justify their a-hole behavior until someone better comes along. A fascist's main villain arc moment is always the stunted empathy. The irony being that most fascists cannot live without empathy. They cannot give out empathy without pretending and copy empathetic behavior, but they need it like fish need water. Hence their attention-seeking behavior, however that may manifest as. That ropes in with the narcissistic behavior. Say, as a friend, you are having a bad time and you talk it out with your fascist narcissistic friend. They will probably find a way to turn the conversation back on them. They will see others as a means to an end, as objects and things to use for their various emotional, mental, and material needs. What I'm trying to say is, a narcissist is a fascist. There is no difference between the two. The road to fascism goes straight through narcissism. Conservatism is a dying ideology. There is no good old days to go back to without standing on the back of people we see as less than. Our eyes, our ears are wide open now, and no matter how we try to do not see it, the internet has made sure of it. We as a human species are on the cusp of a great divergence. What we decide and how we act now will forever change the course of human trajectory. We are now at a jumping off period. And liberals have got to stop appeasing their fascists within their close circle of families and friends. I'm not saying do this for the greater good, but for your good. Putting it plainly, fascists will suck all the empathy and compassion out of you, and eventually you'll be no different from them. Empathy is not a forest burning wildfire. It is a fire that burns within the heart of our house. It is to warm you and your loved ones and people you invite into your home. It is the fire that cooks your food and boils your water. My advice for liberals, progressive, and leftists is to seek and be with other empathetic people and groups. Because you as an individual, no matter how much of a savior complex you may have, you do not have the strength, the energy, the resource, and the time to keep a fascist warm and fed. Seek out other empathetic people and then pool your energy, strength, resource, and time together, and then burn a bonfire so large, so bright that it warms an entire village. Your purpose as a human being is to grow our empathy. Without empathy, we won't survive as a species. Cut off all your fascist friends and families. Once you have established connection with other empathetic people, fascists will feel your loss and miss your warmth, and fascists do not get along for too long with other fascists. When they see your bonfire from afar and could sense a small fraction of your warmth, let's hope they eventually start reviving their own empathy. You cannot change them, you cannot save them. Fascists will have to save themselves. Okay, this video is already getting too long. Hot take: most men want liberal women. They mistake, well, because they are not that bright, empowered women with liberal women. Empowered women do not believe in equality, equity, and inclusion. They will adopt the label liberal and enjoy the power that they have, but will not fight to expand their power to other marginal groups. These are the kind of people who want gays and colored people as handbags and accessories. More likely, they are fascists. Conclusion: empathetic people need to find other empathetic people to be around with. Growing your empathy, live by example, and inspire. And the fascists will eventually figure it out and be willing to grow their empathy on their own. Only then can you help them in growing and strengthening their empathy. Okay, that's the end of it. Subscribe and help me get 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. Bye.